So, all right. Well, welcome to another Active Teaching Lab. Thank you for those of you who joined us online and who are watching this at a later point as well. Before we get started today, we're going to I have a couple announcements. First of all, actually, I have the schedule done, finally. So the schedule's all in, and so you can look ahead at the presentations that we have ready to go for you upcoming this semester. So please come back, check those out. Let your friends know about these as well. Also, if you will take a look at the yellow sheet, today we're going to be doing our activities in one of your own courses. So you'll need to be in a course that you are a teacher. So if you have a blank course or a sandbox course or a course that you can just otherwise play in, please log into that. Or if you need a computer, hey Bill, if you need a computer, we have 3 more up at front just to get into a course right there. If you need help getting into one, I can help you, or Kathy, we can get you set up with one too. The other thing I really want, this is, that's for the course site, but you don't need that this week. The other thing we really wanted to let people know about is the Teaching and Learning Symposium. The Teaching and Learning Symposium will be happening this coming January 9th, 2020. So please register for that. A full day of teaching workshops, pedagogy workshops, all day. We have special speakers. This year the theme is going to be on achieving equity. So register by December 19th. If you have some ideas for a presentation on equity or achieving equity in your classroom, call for proposals is still open, and that's going to be open until the middle of this month, so October 19th. So definitely check that out. And the URL to get there is right there at the bottom left-hand corner, uwm.edu/teaching/learning/symposium. So please go and check that out as well. Dylan, yes?
And the proposals do not have to be about achieving equity. It could be about anything you're interested in.
Thank you very much. So for those of you online, the proposals can be about anything you choose to talk about in regards to pedagogy and teaching in the classroom. It doesn't have to be just about equity. Also, CETL is hiring new graduate workers, so if you know of any graduate workers that are looking for a job still this semester, go to uwm.edu/CETL or have your student go there and check that out. You can come and work for CETL and work with us here. So please come and check that out as well at uwm.edu/CETL and get started. All right. Last bit of information, if you need help, if you're here, you need some help with your computer, you need some help with one of the activities that we're doing, Kathy Binkowski is the person to talk to. Also, if you have any questions about teaching or teaching technology and you're in the College of Letters and Science, Kathy's also the person you go and talk to. And if you'd like to consult with her a little bit more in depth, we have her business card over there on the registration stand, so please reach out to her. If you're in the broader campus though as well, you can contact me or Ed Price over here up front, or Sarah or Dylan. We'd all be happy and love to meet with you and talk to you more about Canvas or your teaching in general. All right, so a lot of announcements, we got those done. It's kind of good timing as all of you are coming in. So today, I'd just like to welcome Dylan Barth. He's going to be talking to us today about online teaching strategies in Canvas. Dylan is a teaching, learning, and technology consultant here at the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. He regularly teaches a first-year seminar on masculinities in post-apocalyptic fiction for the women's and gender studies. He also coordinates the online and blended teaching program and UWM's certificate for online and blended teaching. Even with all of this, Dylan has graciously agreed to come and speak with us today. So please, Dylan, come on up. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you, Lane. And thank you all for being here. As Lane mentioned, I'll be talking about a couple of online teaching strategies that I used recently in a summer course that I taught. As I go along, please feel free to ask questions as we go. No problem. Let's see.
Oh, here, I can.
Excellent. So a little bit of context. As Lane mentioned, I teach in Women's and Gender Studies. I'm teaching a first-year seminar course this semester, but over the summer I taught a 4-week accelerated course. And if you haven't taught one of those, they're pretty intense, right? You have 4 weeks to do 16 weeks worth of work, and this was completely online. The nice thing about it was that students had the flexibility of their schedule. They could be at home, they could be working, and they could be working toward their major and getting some other requirements done. So this was Women's and Gender Studies 302. The focus is gendered bodies, but the focus is on masculinities, which is kind of my area of research. And so it was a course that was capped at 25, and I'm happy to say that 24 of those 25 passed the course, did very well in the course. The one student who didn't was one that I've had in a previous class and was a good student, and I just could not get them to engage. So there must have been something else going on. But I know that attrition in online courses is a serious concern for instructors. And so I was very mindful of that and really trying to reach out with students. So I wanted to talk about a couple of the strategies that I used that I was hopefully trying to engage with students in a little bit of a different way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the course site that I taught in, okay? I put up there a URL. Now it's missing the last 2 letters, because if you all went in there right now, then you'd be like looking at your computers in this course site and not listening to me. So after I'm done, I will write in the remaining 2 letters, and then you'll be able to go in. And what you can do is you can enroll then in, it's basically a shell of the course that I taught. All 4 weeks, you can see all my announcements, everything I've done. The only thing that will be missing is that you won't see like discussion participation, because that doesn't copy over. But you have access to it, you'll be enrolled as a student, and you can, take whatever you like, okay? So here's the Canvas course site that I taught in. I'm going to focus a little bit on week 2, just because week 1 was sort of starting to get, you sort of do introductions and getting things rolling. Week 2 is where we sort of really got into the heart of the content, I think. So what you're looking at here is in the home area, the modules, and because of the accelerated nature of the course, there were multiple things due every day. That's just sort of an inevitability. Usually not the case in a 15 or 16 week course. So what I did was I used a checklist. Okay, so you can see that this is mark done, submit, so that students, when they're going through, they see they click to say, okay, I completed this, and so that they get a sense of what they've done in the course so far, and as they complete it, they'll be able to see their progress. What I'm going to focus on, though, are 3 different aspects within each of these sort of modules that I used for engagement. One is around providing some context for readings, okay? So you can see that I'm having students watch a week 2 overview, which is like a quick 5-minute video overview for the week. And then I'm asking them to read out of the textbook, which is called Exploring Masculinities, and these are the page numbers. I gave it a to-do list. Part of the reason why I wanted to give it put it on a page was that I could then add it to their to-do list. So it shows up for them by July 1st, read these pages, right? But when you click in there, what I tried to provide students was basically 4 different types of things. One is just a reminder of the textbook reading, including the specific names of the articles that they had to read, or the readings within there. Giving them an estimated time that this will take. These are pretty intense articles, so I was estimating at the high end probably about 3 hours to read and take notes and digest that. And then what you need to know. Okay, so you can see that there's a couple of paragraphs here that are sort of basically saying, all right, it would be like at the beginning or maybe at the end of a face-to-face class where you say, all right, well, we're going to be reading Connell's essay, and I just want to foreground this a little bit. Here are some things to pay attention to. Students in online classes, they may not get that. So I wanted to provide that in text form here. So it's not too long, and then I ask some specific questions that I want them to think about as they read. This is sort of the textbook manufacturers have really taken this up as a practice, right? Some pre-reading questions, and then maybe coming back to those a little bit later. I also had a space that I would include additional resources. You can see that there are none here. But for some other readings, I would do, if the readings referenced, there were a couple of readings at like a Jay-Z video, so I found it on YouTube and popped it in here so they could very quickly, as they're reading, they'd be able to go in and see what that was, and they could get a little bit more context. So this is how I use sort of context-based readings to help them get a sense of what they need to complete. And just to sort of by extension, maybe this one. So here's one from a previous week, from week 1. They were reading these, and the authors were talking about the way that certain bodies were represented and how they changed what white masculinity in terms of physique looked like, and so they referenced Eugene Sandow, Harry Houdini, and Tarzan. And so I just found some images and put them in here for them to get a little bit of a reference and not have to find them on their own. So I really felt that was pretty effective in helping orient students to each of those weeks. So that was the first thing that I did. Any questions about the pages?
What was student feedback like? Did they say, like, the picture of Tarzan was really helpful, or did you get much feedback about it?
No, I didn't. I wish I did, you know? But I feel like if it benefits a student, and to be honest, it's like sort of already, you know, I was doing it, these are sort of coming out of my notes, so it wasn't too workload intensive. But I'm continuing to do that even in a face-to-face course. Yes?
I've done a very similar thing with the discussion class that I did face-to-face.
Yeah.
And believe me, students love it when you help them. What do I need to get out of this reading?
Yeah.
I get that every single year. I think they're really smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's that's very practical. Okay, what do I need to know about this, you know, whatever this reading is? And if it can help them with that focus. I had a class last night and we actually talked about reading, and students were saying, I'll read a page and I don't remember what I read, you know? And so we are talking about different kinds of strategies, and this might be a way, like, okay, just focus on this idea as you're going through this kind of reading. So a second part that I want to talk about is around discussions. And online discussions can feel kind of dreadful, I think, to a lot of instructors. Like, it doesn't feel like a face-to-face discussion. And this is true, and it never will, okay? We're never going to get the same dynamic that we get in this sort of, you know, very rich environment. But one strategy that a lot of instructors do, which is your classic initial post and 2 response posts. Okay, this is something that it's sort of a very nice way to give students a scaffolded discussion experience and to be able to participate and require that participation. But what a lot of instructors that I've worked with have trouble with is those replies. They seem to be like, yeah, I agree, right? You know, like they'll write a really good initial post, and then those 2 reply posts are just kind of flat. And so what I wanted to do was try to embed a little bit more thinking into those discussion prompts. So I'm going to show you, here is my discussion 3 initial post prompt. You won't be able to read it, but basically what it's doing is it's asking students to write an initial post of 300 words in which they are finding an artifact, okay, it could be a video, image, or something like that, that represents hegemonic masculinity, which is a concept that they have read about in Connell's essay, okay? I ask a few sub-questions here, provide the rubric that they're going to be evaluated on, and that's all good, okay? So that's the initial post. They're finding an artifact and talking about it. For the reply post, okay, so this is discussion 3 response posts. I'm asking students to choose 2 initial posts to respond to, pretty classic, And I say for each response, write at least 150 words in which you extend, challenge, or elaborate on the post by incorporating ideas from today's readings. All right? So what I'm asking them to do is read new texts from the book and then apply what they have learned there. And it worked really well in this situation because the other authors were writing about alternative ways of conceptualizing different constructions of masculinity. So they had to think about, okay, what might soft-boiled masculinity, how might that play in with the way that this artifact is being talked about? In particular, consider how the 4 configurations developed by Connell may not sufficiently inform the artifact. What might an alternative configuration look like that could help us better understand this? So this was the response, a way that they had to bring new information to a post. What this looked like in reality, so one thing I did divide my students up into 2 groups because I had 25 students, so there were about 12 in each. I named them Group 1 and Group A, so there are no hierarchies. No one feels like they're, lesser than the other. But if you go into Group 1, again, you won't be able to see all of this, but here is Jocelyn's post. Something I also did that I should mention is I sort of gave an incentive. 300 was the minimum, and you could get a B if you were sort of at that level. But if you wanted to get above that, if you wanted to get at the A level, you had to write significantly more than that. And it had to be good, of course. It's not just about the words. Some students did that, some were fine with whatever. So,
And Dylan,
Yeah.
quick question. Where's the word count as you grade it? How do you determine that?
the word count is up here. It's the,
Okay, so there's no
okay.
easy way to do that.
no, it is when you type it in, but
Right.
not when you are trying to monitor it, unfortunately. So if it was short, I would copy it in the Word and just sort of see. And so, you can see my post in here. No one had posted to Jocelyn. But what I really like is just sort of looking at Marissa here. This is a response post to the initial post of Andrea, I think, yeah. And so we have the student bringing in a passage from that, the new reading, to try to help this student, Andrea, sort of maybe rethink what that video, that she had posted, what that means. And so I think I don't have sort of like big data on how effective this was, but from anecdotally, I feel like the responses were a little bit, they had a deeper engagement because they were requiring students to do more than I agree or disagree. A few of the ones that I did had more of that kind of feel, just the nature of the assignments, and they seemed to fall a little bit flat. So I would recommend this kind of strategy where students have to do something new, not just continue to just sort of reinforce what another student said. Now you'll also see that I had posted here, and so I gave feedback in 3 different kinds of ways, okay? One is I posted to every student in their initial post, and then also I posted a lot in here, and that was very intentional. But this isn't feedback about how they did, but it's feedback about their ideas and engaging as a participant in the discussion. So that's one way. The second way, of course, is in the gradebook. I would use SpeedGrader, I'd use a rubric, and then I would give feedback every single discussion to that student, like, oh, this is, you did a great job here, or, it seemed like you could have delved in a little bit deeper into this topic here, or, your response posts didn't incorporate a quote or something like that. So I was able to give feedback to the student individually. The third way that I gave feedback, and this is the third part of our active teaching lab, is through video shout-outs. They're shout-outs. They're actually not shout-outs, but there are shout-outs embedded within them. And I'll give you a sense of what that looks like. So discussion 3 video response. I posted this as an announcement. So one of the problems I think that we have with students in discussions is how do you get them back to those discussions, right? If you were to do a summative post that says, hey, listen everybody, as I was reading this is what I noticed. If you post it in a discussion, it's gonna stink to the bottom. It's gonna be sitting down there at the bottom, students may not see it. If you have multiple groups, you have to post it twice. So I did this as an announcement, and because I wanted to increase the sense of instructor presence, I did it as a video, okay? And so what you'll see here is, this is just me. I'm gonna say right now, this is a one take, okay? So this isn't like, an overview where, I stop, go back and do it. This is like off the cuff. I do have notes, but this is not scripted in any way. And I think that's okay for this kind of thing.
Best colleagues, I'm here giving a little bit of a response to, an overall response to our posts that you made over the last couple of days. So I really appreciate all of the thoughtful artifacts that you provided. I thought they were wonderful. And so I just want to kind of talk about a couple that came up as I was reviewing them and providing some feedback to them. Just going to bring up some notes that I have here. So one of the, I think, interesting artifacts that came up was an interview with a woman named Manal from Saudi Arabia that Jocelyn had posted.
Okay, so that's where I wanted to stop it. I mean, I feel like I sound like an idiot. So, I mean, it's just the nature of these things, right? Especially when they're kind of off the cuff. But if you noticed at the very end, I said, this post by Jocelyn. And that was something that was very intentional. I did this throughout the videos. And I said, oh, Zoe, you made a really good point in your post, and here's why. And the idea was to try to get students to watch the videos, to engage in these videos. The analytics are not very good on this. I think this video had 5 views out of 24, really. But 5 students went back and looked at it, and I think that giving students that sort of sense of, okay, I may be called out in a good way. I would never call anyone out in a bad way here, but like, this is a really good idea, and here's why, here's what we can learn from it. So these videos, this one was 8 minutes. Some of them were longer and shorter, but I really feel like they were, at the very least, some way to engage with those students. And not only let them know that I was taking their work seriously, but also let specific students know in a public way how they were performing, what the ideas that they brought to that discussion. One other problem with Canvas is that Canvas, when you have group restricted forums, bless you, is that you cannot open them up to other students, right? And that, D2L, you're able to do that. Canvas, you're not able to do that. So this is a way to give that kind of holistic feedback so that students who are not in the same groups are getting a little sense of feedback. So this is the third way. Can I answer any questions? I think this is sort of my time allotment and what I was intending to cover.
What
Yes.
media did you use to make the video? Is it something that's in Canvas or?
It is. You could do it 2 ways. One is you could just use, if you have something on your computer that has a webcam, record it and then upload it as a video. But in My Media, this is how I did it. Under Account in My Media, there is this webcam recorder. Under Add New Webcam Recorder. And it just, you can't edit it or anything like that, but that was okay. I always did this out on the back porch with the birds singing, which is, sometimes fine, sometimes, I get a crow or something, but that's okay. I think it adds to the, the feeling like I'm a person and not a robot, on the other end. So the webcam recorder was really good for that, and it just uses your webcam.
I think it also, if you do an announcement, isn't there like a webcam at the bottom? Like if you just start like a new announcement? I've been using that.
Okay.
But also, I totally for me, it's just, it's disconcerting. I rarely went back and watched them just because it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's what I look like. So,
Right.
Yeah,
there.
that one.
Yeah, record, upload media.
Yeah.
So I guess there are a couple things about this. One is I don't know. I feel like this maybe goes towards your 2 gigabyte limit, but I'm not sure, we'd have to check into that. It does. As opposed to My Media, which does not,
Oh,
okay?
all good news to know.
So really keep it short and sweet there.
Yeah,
Sorry,
But we could, I just checked with Canvas recently, and they said anything with announcements and discussions, it doesn't go toward.
Oh.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that was the help desk. So they could be wrong, but I checked last
that's
week.
significantly different than what I've been told
Correct.
before.
And yeah, I
So,
asked
awesome.
them again, and they said if it's in the discussion.
Sarah.
So, different question, Dylan, I'm also interested in why you chose to do it with My Media Cultura as opposed to within the Canvas website. So one of them obviously is the issue of storage space, maybe.
yeah.
But also I'm curious, did you ever have any technical difficulties saving the recording? Did it matter how long it was, anything like that?
I had no issues, so
That's good.
yeah, that was nice. I did it in My Media mainly because I'm afraid of Amy Mingrich. Our colleague Amy, who's our video person, and she really is advocating that we use My Media because of the way that the storage works there. And so I thought that was the right decision, and being able to support it a little bit, and it worked with no problem. I mean, it doesn't even, so when you go in here, when you go into My Media, what you'll notice is that there are a couple of options when you're adding something new. So media upload, I use the webcam recorder. There's this thing called Kaltura Capture, and Kaltura Capture requires you to download something to your computer, a little application that you use. But the nice thing about the webcam recorder is it's all in Canvas. You don't have to download anything. So it's just like it just comes up, and then you can record, and it's all good. So I mean, it's very simple to use, and then you just have to embed it into the course.
How do you get to that? I've never used it.
How do you get there? It's under Account, and then the bottom option is My Media. And this is where you can, yeah.
And then
Oh, yeah.
in bed, I have a little, I'm in bed challenged.
Okay. How do you embed something?
Please, thank you.
Sure. Am I able to show this?
You show whatever you want.
Okay, good.
You can tell me to. I don't.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go into a course site here. This is a blank course site. So I had done it as an announcement, so I'll do that here, but you could do it anywhere you see the rich content editor, okay? So I'm gonna do as a new announcement over on this space. All right, and I could type in some words here, but what you're looking for is this blue arrow right here that says more external tools. And this will then bring you, there are 5 different options. So we call it Kaltura sometimes, but My Media is what you're looking for here. This is that space that exists in Canvas for you, but it's outside of the specific course. You hit My Media, and it will bring up all the videos that you have in your My Media area. So we have, the Road Warrior here, and I can just hit embed. You can change the sizes and things, but this is kind of the easy way to do it. And then it will show up right in there.
Oh, that's very straightforward. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is a two-step process though, because as opposed to the way that Molly's doing it, where you kind of do it right in the announcement, here you do it in My Media and then you do have to embed it, but it seems to work okay. And you could use things, I think, more easily in multiple courses because My Media is outside of a specific course. It's just embedding it. You're welcome.
Dylan, I had a
Yeah.
question about if you created a video like you're suggesting, you created an announcement, you create it through the internal Canvas tool.
Yeah.
Is there a way to edit that, pull it out again, put it into your computer, store it, do something else with it? Because it seems like Kaltura has some, it's like you can, has some options, like a menu option. Is there a menu option or anything available with those videos that you create within Canvas?
Don't know, let's see, we're gonna find out.
So that's your My Media then.
This is my media, and
But I did wanna say, I did experience some of the delays, like in terms of it, like uploading, etc. It was usually like very early Monday morning
Oh,
and like me being like frazzled in front of the computer, like, okay, here's what we got going on this week. So it was just sort of like a thing, you know, so I didn't know about my media, like
Okay.
learning every day, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the upload process might have taken, this,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, because I have, you know, a slower computer, so yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely took
okay,
a little bit, and if, you know, I never tried to edit it, I just was like, I'm just gonna blab on,
Yeah.
so, yes.
yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, so that, I think that may be another, reason for my media, cause it takes time to render a little bit,
Yeah.
but, you know, any of the videos will, it'll just take a few minutes. So let's see, we have actions. I'm gonna move you, Catherine.
Yeah, you can just
Pinkowski.
minimize me, in fact.
Okay. Minimize you, I would never minimize. Okay, publish,
Is
this
this on some
share.
sort of hegemonic masculinity?
Right.
That's right, exactly.
Sorry, had to go there.
Yeah. I don't think you can download these. We'd have to check with Amy.
Sure.
Wait.
You can,
There, oh,
in the embed code area, you can select to allow people to download.
Oh, there you go.
Download video.
Yeah.
Okay. The answer is yes.
awesome. Thank you.
Welcome. What other questions may I answer?
I had a question about your discussion.
Sure.
You wanted your students to, create something new, right? And so I'm thinking about the follow-up questions that you were going to have them ask. How did you help your students find new readings for the response post? Did you give them guidance, or said just go out into the wide world of the internet and find a reading to talk about? Like, how did you help them find a reading?
I helped them find a reading by requiring them to read
Okay.
the same thing.
Okay.
Okay, so so they were not finding something new, it was, so before they had to do the discussion response post, they had to read new chapters,
Oh,
and those were paired
right.
intentionally
Okay.
to do that kind of thing, so, but I wonder, I don't think I had them do something where they were finding an artifact and bringing it back in. So that was the,
Just thinking of a logistical grading thing with
Yeah.
the initial and response posts.
Yeah.
So are you doing that all in one discussion board? Maybe it's changed, but before you could only grade the initial response, or the initial post, not the responses. Is
Mm.
that still the current status of Canvas, and how do you grade those responses if it is?
So it's actually awesome in Canvas, the grading aspect. The challenge is giving due dates to
Okay.
multiple discussion when it's scaffolded, right?
Okay.
So the way that I worked around that is you can see that if you look, discussion 3 initial post, that is a page. That's not a discussion. And discussion 3 response posts is also a page, not a discussion.
Okay.
So students then, they say, okay, I have to do discussion 3 initial post. And it takes them in, and then I link discussion 3, and that takes them to the actual discussion space,
Okay.
all right? When you're in that space, okay, I have it divided into groups, students would only see the group they're in, and you go to the speed grader, what you'll notice is that for the students, you see here is their initial post and their response posts. So they're all listed. That's why it's really nice, because you can see everything they've done. Now, if you wanted to see the context, if you were like, oh, well, you responded here to Jarrett, I want to see what Jarrett had written, you can view the full group discussion and go find that one.
Okay.
I ended up not doing that too much, because I had read them closely and I kind of knew what was going on. But it's really nice for giving feedback in that way.
Could you go back to where you got there?
How I got there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in a discussion, this is the one thing that I don't love, is that Now see, it gives me this window. I'm stuck in the speed grader. I'll get out of here. So here's the discussion, the drop down arrow, or the kebab here, speed grader. You can also access that through the gradebook. And then I could fill out the rubric and then give students a little bit of feedback at the bottom.
So your rubric has to encompass the initial and response.
Yeah.
Would you give them any feedback other than the video shout out about their initial response, or would you just kind of wait until everything's there?
The way that I handled this was, so you can see that I set up, because it's kind of a pain otherwise, I think, to how do you figure out the response post and all that. So initial post and response post. One error that I made was that in my rubric, I did not make this, these points, I did not make it a range. So they could get like either 100, 85, like 60 or 0 or something. You can type in also the number, but then it doesn't sort of give you this nice feedback. So that would be something I change. It's sort of a small thing, but I would fill out the rubric for each of these and then give a little bit of feedback. You know, this is good feedback. Good job quoting the artifact. Some students, you know, a good student. Yeah, student didn't embed the artifact, so we couldn't really talk about it. So that is how I was giving feedback. And it took time, but I don't think you have to write a lot, you know, to help orient students a little bit. Okay, so if you do want access to the course site, you're under no obligation. But the remaining letters are, well, one is a letter, one is a number, G and 9. These are case sensitive, okay? So you do have to capitalize C, F, F, and G here. And this will take you to an area where you can then hit enroll. It'll add you as a student and you'll have access to it. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. Happy to answer them.
Thank you, Dylan.
You're welcome.
Well, let's try some of these activities on our own, some of these ideas that Dylan brought to us today. Hopefully we won't get too dizzy here. All right. So let's go into one of the courses that you have. If you need a computer, there are a couple more up front, but go into a course that you are a teacher in, and let's start looking a little bit at what Dylan was doing and maybe how we can replicate that in our own course. So I'm going to log in here to Canvas. Probably going to have to do a Duo. Let's get that. Cross your fingers. Are you logged in today? No such luck. All right, here it comes.
Lane, while that's happening,
Yes.
can I make a brief announcement?
Please.
That course site is not yet published.
Very good.
So once, it will be in the next 30 seconds.
No one has ever done that. Emailed their students and paused, go find it.
Okay. And I just want to thank you, Sarah, for pointing that out.
But hey, the link works beautifully to enroll.
Okay, all right.
Nice.
Good. So it's now published, so.
So I'm going to create a page, and so this is going to be, so looking at that first activity, so the context reading page. Now, Dylan, I noticed you said that you had like further readings, and then that one page didn't have any.
Mhm.
What did you have like a template? What did you do to set those pages up? Like, did you have a template you created and then just kind of copied and pasted it throughout that semester?
Yeah, I think what I did was I used the headings in the rich content editor to create those. Those were like header 3.
Header 3s, okay.
And if I didn't remember textbook reading, what you need to know, and additional resources, then I would copy them over.
Okay.
But I think, yeah, making them stand out a little bit.
What was the purpose of the time estimate? What do you think? What do students get out of a time estimate, you think? Like,
I think that helps them schedule their time a little bit more effectively. And it also, from the workload standpoint, you know, we're all obligated to meet our 144 hours. So I was sort of able to get a sense of, okay, you know, what about, am I giving them too much or enough work in that? But I think it really, from the student side, it's kind of like, okay, I need to dedicate 3 hours. If it's less than that, that's okay.
right.
That's the purpose.
Just to give them a general ballpark of what they're going to be expecting, maybe, hey, I have to be on the bus in a half hour. I'm not going to be able to finish this all the way up because it's a 3-hour assignment. All right, cool. So you had, so basically just making out like a template like this, where you just have these basic questions that you have there. I loved having the time estimate. One of the things that I was really impressed with as well is adding the to-do list so that students have a better idea of when this is going to be required, when you're going to be using this reading as well. So, which is right at the bottom, right there. So if you aren't familiar with it yet, you can just add that to-do list. You can click somewhere on the calendar and say, this is going to be next Wednesday at 11:59, or maybe right before class. So it always does that. It goes back in time. Right, October 9th, and then we'll say at 9 a.m. or something before class is due. The other thing that I was thinking that might be, especially if you're doing a reading that's going to be online, so in addition to having the readings, you know, kind of what's going to be there, what you need to know about that reading, the additional resources you might want to look at, how long this is going to take to read, is if this is going to be a PDF, you can just upload that PDF right onto the same page. And so to do that, I'm just going to add a file to this course. I'll go to Files. Do I have anything? No, I won't use that. I'll just do it. Upload a new file, choose the file, and we'll pull in a file that I can easily show. Here we go. Just the syllabus. Upload that. And so now I have the syllabus for people. Like I have the reading. Let's say the syllabus is actually the reading. So the reading, I can also so just to make it easier for students, one step, so I don't have to click on it and then go to a new page. What I can do is I can put my cursor, if you've come to one of the Canvas Basics, I've shown this as well, but you put your cursor somewhere on the file you want them to read, and you can click on the link to URL, which will open an auto open option. Auto open the inline preview, update the link, save and publish. And now when you open it up, you'll have all of the context right there for your students. So what they're required to read, what they should know about it, some additional resources, time estimate, and then maybe the reading right at the bottom. So especially if they're looking at this in a web, like a mobile device, it's all on one page. They don't have to click back and forth. So it just automatically opens up for them there. So just if it says PDF, available for them.
Now,
Yeah.
I was talking with the folks in the library about the one issue of doing this, like if it's copyrighted material, you can have some issues of, does the school still own it?
Sure.
So can you?
Yeah, that's something you definitely want to check out with as well. Like sometimes if you have the reading, you're already going to be offering it through like a course packet, like this is like a one chapter type of thing that it's a limited amount, then that's something, yeah, you definitely want to look into what the copyright is on that, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, but if it's something that you are able to then share, and you were going to post that online anyways, this would be an easy way of allowing students to have that access right away. Anything else that you can think of to maybe add or that you think would be important? It's interesting to brainstorm on these types of things as well. The last thing I would show you, especially if you're going to have a reading and it's going to maybe be a website. So if you want your students to go to the website, you can add the link. So like, please go to the BBC, right? But then you can add a hyperlink really quickly, and this is my favorite shortcut of the year. If you press, and it's on the handout here as well, Command K will bring you up the option to insert hyperlinks without having to go into a separate menu. And then you can just copy and paste or just type it in, bbc.code. So a Command K will allow you to quickly create a hyperlink or just open up the ability. So just highlight the word, Command K or Control K, and it's just a fast little shortcut that I love. I use that all the time for things if I'm making hyperlinks instead of having to go and find the button and clicking on it. It saved me half a second every time I do it. Those half a seconds add up, darn it. And so hopefully I don't waste them doing something for this. Okay, so I love shortcuts. The last thing I wanted to talk about, but I want to, if there's anything else that you want to talk about in terms of discussions or how to set that up, I love the way that Dylan sequences his discussions and adds separate due dates by creating pages. That was brilliant. Thank you. I learned something. That was my big takeaway on the discussions. Was using due dates on a page as a due date. That was awesome.
Lee, could I add something?
Yes, please.
Which is that, so the order of what they're supposed to do is important each day, right?
Right.
So what?
Like, are you talking on the home page just so I can go back to the right page, or right here?
We're talking about on the home page.
Sure.
And so what happens is if you give like your typical 11:59 deadline, and you give that to multiple items, it will put that in alphabetical order. Well, sometimes the discussion would come up first in the list as what they had to do, even though I wanted them to do the readings first. So what I did was I just made like the reading would be due at 11:57. I mean, it's goofy, but then it would show up in the right order on their list. And then so 11:57, then they had to do the quiz at 11:58, the page was 11:59, and then it shows up in that order, and you know.
So when you have it on the home page and it's all you have it to do, like it, so it's all sequenced with checklist. Is that what the checklist is making that do it, or
It's
on the
on the syllabus page? That's what you want. Okay.
Yes, so it's ordered here already that way, but on the syllabus page, but then also on the calendar, it would show up in the correct order.
Right on the calendar.
On the calendar and on the syllabus, because I use the syllabus page as, you know, that's, you know, where everything
That's
is.
really
for the
good.
day, so just a little thing.
So sequence things by like just a minute, just so that they show up in the correct order on the syllabus and on the calendar.
Yeah.
So if you want them to do everything on the same day, and you don't want it to show up in alphabetical order, but the order they should do it in on the syllabus and the calendar,
Right.
sequence it by just a minute difference in time.
Yeah.
And that way, again, that's awesome. Thank you, Dylan.
Welcome.
I have a
Yes.
semi-related sequencing thing that has been good and bad. So students every week in lab have a pre-lab quiz and they have a lab outline, and then the day after lab a post-lab quiz opens up, and after that I wanted them to have access to what we just call the answers. So my answers to everything that they've worked through. And so I thought like, okay, I'll just make a page and put the page after the post-lab quiz so that they just have to do everything in order and use the module, you know, these things must go in order to make it work. Well, students would do their pre-lab quiz because they had to, but they wouldn't always click on the lab outline because we had copies of it in the lab. And so then we started getting emails about, I can't get to my quiz. And it was a very simple solution, like you just have to do the previous step. But they don't see the module as like, oh, I have to click through an order, even though it tells them they have to click through an order. So my sequencing trick didn't work so well.
Is that something that were you able to fix that by just explaining to them once, like, oh, hey, you need to just do this and then it'll work?
I think that solved most of the problems.
Okay.
But here, I just had an email from a student like, I couldn't get to this, and then I found out what I needed to do, but can I have my points back?
Right.
Even though it was submitted late.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just tricky.
So it's just a matter of just talking them through that and being ready
Right.
for a little bit of, especially since everyone's kind of getting used to Canvas anyways.
Right.
Right. The last thing I wanted to show today was Dylan was talking about how he was using videos to give some feedback. And he was saying it doesn't matter if it's perfect. Do it in one take, because otherwise it seemed like if you start breaking these up, it's just going to take you forever. It's going to balloon in time for video editing, right? I wanted to show you how rough they could be and still students would like them, because I did this myself. So I'm going to go to a slightly different space just because it's where these files were located when I was in Madison. Just pop right in here. And I use these videos for not just, oh, it's going to UWM, which is not what I want. Space, that was, I was using these not just for feedback for students, but also to do a weekly overview. So you can use Kaltura My Media for a very similar, you can do really short videos, and what I would do is I would go through each week and kind of explain what it is we were going to do. So what is it that we're covering? What is it that, where were we at, where are we going to go? And again, it was just 5-minute videos, and let's get to week 4. A really short 5-minute videos that kind of gave you an overview, and they don't have to be perfect. All I did was, this is just a PowerPoint presentation that I used Kaltura Media Space, same thing, and I just did a voiceover that.
Is a separate and growing part of Northern Asia. Really the famous adage to never get involved in a planet where Asia appears to not to apply to them.
So Princess Bride is required reading in my classes. You have to watch Princess Bride to get half my references. But the idea here of this is that you hear all the uhs, you hear the and the hesitations. I kind of get going into a little spiel, but they weren't perfect. I did them in one take, and that's the point of this. I did it in one take. It wasn't perfect. It was rarely perfect. But students ate them up, and I skipped, this is week 4, I skipped week 5. I had a revolt in my class. Now again, only about half of my students actually watched them, but the students that watched them really liked them. And I think they were really impactful for those students. So again, it took me maybe 10 minutes to set up the PowerPoint and 5 minutes to record. And I only gave myself one recording. Didn't do it twice. Maybe the first week I did. I kind of get used to it. I would be lying if I didn't say that. But as I went going, I said, okay, only one take, because otherwise I'll keep second guessing myself, and I'll hear all those uhs, and I'll hear my kind of high-pitched, really fast voice, and I don't like it. But the students like it. They like the content that was brought in there. So they, again, it doesn't have to be a whole lot of time you spend on this, but at the same time, I think it really has an impact for students. I did an overview, he did a feedback. I think that was a marvelous idea inside of the announcement. So that's just some different ways you can use that video tool for yourself in Kaltura, and which is embedded into Canvas at UWM. So thank you so much. Yes, Dylan,
Can I make a recommendation? So the technology has changed, I think, a little.
Has it?
In terms of, if you're doing a PowerPoint like that,
Yeah.
voiceover PowerPoint now exports as a movie file. So this is like new in the last year. So our recommendation is, if you're doing something like that, rather than using My Media, that would be a way that you could do it, because you can quickly re-record one slide instead of having to do the whole thing over. So we can help you do all of that. But if you are trying to capture either the webcam, or you're trying to capture what's on your screen, like what's right here, then My Media is great for that sort of thing.
So what I did is I just did capture the screen with a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
But if I made a big screw up, like in the middle of the thing, I would have to record the whole blasted thing, right? But you're saying, hey, PowerPoint now, you can create the video, and if slide 15 really, really is bad, you can make that exception and refix that without having to do the whole thing.
Right.
Awesome.
And so that's, in that course, the week 1, week 2 overviews, that's what I did for those. It's pretty, I mean, it's the same thing you're doing here, but you can change the slides. And apparently on PC or Windows machines, you can you can't do it on a Mac, but you can have your face being recorded too.
Oh, in the bottom corner.
Pop in and
Yes.
out.
So that's a new feature in PowerPoint. So it's getting better,
It's getting better.
easier.
It's like a Beatles song.
Yeah.
It's getting better all the time. So, all right.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for your attention today. I very much appreciate Dylan's insight and all of your questions today. So thank you so much for coming. Please do fill out the evaluation form, the little blue evaluation form in front of you. If you're online and you really like today's presentation, please send me an email. I'll record that as feedback. If you didn't like it, don't bother. It's okay. Also, please come again next week. We'll be meeting again, and if you are able, bring a buddy. It's always more fun to have people here, so please let people know in your office about what we're doing here at Active Teaching Lab. Next week, we're going to be talking about student podcasting with Christopher Cantwell in the Department of History. So that's next October 9th. And again, thank you as well for all of you for being here. Thank you to Cedal for providing the bagels. And have a great week, everyone. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.